The Creative Nomad, presented by TrueAwesomeLife.com. I'm your host, JP Adkins, and I created this podcast because I want to tell the stories of the radicals, the ones who are out there making the world a better, more beautiful place. The amazing authors, artists, musicians, thought leaders, coaches, and yes, nomads who are out there living their true awesome lives and want to help others do the same. Are you ready to live your true awesome life? Go to TrueAwesomeLife.com and start your journey today.
Hello, everyone. It is so nice to see you. It's so nice to be seen. Today, we are here with the wonderful, the funny, the talented Miss Sabrina Sourjah. Sabrina, I am so happy to have you here today. Why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm really happy to be here as well. And I really enjoyed our pre-chat as well. So, so just to introduce myself, I'm originally from Sri Lanka. So I grew up there. And then, I followed the conventional path, did a tech degree, and was working in corporate. And then I moved to the US in my late 20s. So about 10 years back, I moved to the US for my MBA and then continued the same path of, working corporate jobs. But I always knew I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. Something was missing, although things were really going well. Then I made another transition. I moved to Canada, so that's where I'm right now. And then I finally decided, enough with this, and I actually left my corporate role. I think early 2021, so January. I think January 15th. I still remember. It's like a milestone date for me. And then what I did first was I actually got into freelance writing. I still do that. I focus on mental health, so I work with therapists and different mental health startups on blogs and website copy, and stuff like that. On the other hand, I'm also a certified coach. So I'm an authenticity and career change coach. So I help people do what I did, in changing my career.
Wow. I love it. So much I could talk about there. So what made you decide, okay, it's a lot of moving, right?
Yeah.
So you went from Sri Lanka, which I hear is absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely
It is.
gorgeous. And then you came to the United States, right? So
Mhm.
what was that about? What was really the catalyst to do that?
The catalyst, like to be fully transparent, was I was dating someone at that time, and then we were from different religions, and so it was a bit hectic in terms of our parents and how they viewed it, right? So the first catalyst was just to get out of the situation and just come and do my thing. But also, it was studies as well. I wanted to do my MBA. And I've always kind of, liked the US. I'm somebody who is more individualistic, although I grew up in a collectivist culture. And I love the freedom that US talks about. And, there's this American dream. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try it out. And I have never been to Oregon before. I've been to the East Coast prior to moving, but Oregon was all new. But I did some research and I was like, okay, I'm going to move.
You know what? You probably have more research on Oregon than I actually know. Being from the U.S., it's just they call that whole section of the country flyover states. Right?
Yeah, you don't stop there.
You don't really stop there. It's a flyover. So, and if you do, it's just to change planes.
Yeah, but I'm
You can never
telling
leave
you,
an airport.
Oregon is really pretty. It's like a very
Yeah.
green state. Yeah.
It's one of the places that I have a national park, I believe, that I'm supposed to be in on the trip that I'm on. So I believe I do hit Oregon in the middle of that. But so you're here, you're in Oregon, you're doing your studies, everything's great. Are you still with that person that you came over here with?
No, we got married, but then we divorced legally about 2 years back.
Okay. Okay. And I think it's so brave of you. So I just want to commend you because one of the things that I hear from your story is that you've been committed to living your life, right? And living
Yeah.
in happiness, whatever that looks like. You
Mhm.
came over here, and you did grad studies, and grad studies is great and wonderful, but you came over here, whole different country, whole different culture, whole different everything. Then and now you're in Canada. So what prompted you to do Canada?
So my initial hope was to settle down in the US, but immigration policies became a little more stringent. Things got a little difficult, and then I thought, okay, what's the closest to the US, but also has some of the shared values, and also like moving here was like easy in terms of immigration. The process is clear and direct. And I liked what I heard about Canada. Again, I've never been to Canada, but I was like, okay, I'm going to apply for permanent residency and move.
Wow, that's awesome. Um, I grew up in Detroit, so going to Canada was kind of second nature. You just like literally, it was the next closest city,
Yeah.
quite literally. It's one of the few places and the few places in uh, the United States that Canada is actually south
Oh,
of
yeah.
us. Detroit is actually slightly north than Windsor, so slightly,
Yeah.
But but what's great is that I was over there all the time, and the drinking age was 19 in Canada when I was growing up, and
Yeah.
21 in the US. So we would go over there and drink. Um, and it was fun. It was so different. And actually, it was the first Pride I ever went to was in Canada
Mm.
because we decided that we were going to go over. I was running a bar over here, and we all decided we were going to go over there for Pride, and ended up walking in the parade. It was like adventure of craziness.
Yeah.
What part of Canada are you in?
I'm in Toronto right now.
My favorite. The I my last trip on Toronto, and maybe it was just me. Maybe they did power wash it for me. I don't know, but like literally, there was no like dirt. It was like somebody like dusted everything before I got there.
Mm.
Like it was creepy because in the city, like there's cars driving by. There's not like there should be some kind of like just natural soot from life at that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I was like going on windowsills and like there was no dust. It was weird. It was just like one of those moments of like, and coming from Detroit, and that was back when Detroit was Detroit, not
Mm.
what it is now. Um,
Mm.
Detroit is not the same Detroit that you think of as Detroit, but it was like creepy being that clean. It was like, why are you this clean? Like, how do you do that? Like, how did you power wash the building to be clean?
When was
Is that
that?
your 98, 97, 98? Yeah,
Okay.
a long
Okay.
time ago.
Yeah. I think it's a little more dirtier now, but it is relatively clean. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those. That's now in that trip. My best friend was president of the Bare Naked Ladies fan club. Okay,
Yeah.
we went there to run an event for them. Like we
Mm.
helped run an event for the Bare Naked Ladies. Was
Yeah.
in their hotel room. Was like had this big huge party. I was with really great friends all weekend. What I
Nice.
remember most about that weekend is how clean that city was, because it was that strikingly like weird, like eerie, like you are a major city here and I can eat off your sidewalk. Like there's something wrong here. Like how do you do this?
Yeah. I think it's changed quite a bit, but I do love Toronto. It's one of the cities I really love, and I intend to live here for a while now.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a great city. It's a great
Mhm.
city, and So what is your favorite part about being in Toronto?
Um, I do like the tolerance aspect here. Canadians are nice, and I think that is true in general, right? And I also like that it is diverse. Like when I go on the street, I hear very different languages, and I like that. It makes me feel like I belong. And then what else? I like the nature. I like the balance here actually. There's enough of city, there's the Broadway and all of that. But there's also enough trails right in the middle of the city that I really enjoy. And I think it's less crowded than places like New York or, the other cities. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that as well. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, New York. I lived in Philadelphia for a year,
Hmm.
actually downtown Philadelphia, um, and just being in that kind of. Again, I lived in Detroit for years. A lot of my adult life, I actually lived in Detroit in the city. So, but being in Philadelphia, it was a whole different feeling because there were so many people
Hmm.
in that compact place. Whereas at Detroit had already had the flight, so there wasn't as many. Now there is. You go back, it's a different. Again, it's not the Detroit I grew up with, um, and it's beautiful. But I can understand why you would think that Toronto is a nice mix
Yeah.
because my experience in Toronto was that it was a very open city. It was a very um, there was enough people to make it feel energetic and energized, but not enough people to make you feel like you're being suffocated.
Hmm.
And sometimes in Philadelphia, it felt like that. There was too many people in too
Yeah.
little space. So yeah.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit. I It's like, how do I phrase that? I love that you're an authenticity coach
Mhm.
because I think a lot of people, as we were talking offline, are afraid to be their authentic selves and live the authentic life
Yeah.
because we're fed this. And see if you agree with this. You are fed this whole I have to go to school, get a good job, you know, the white picket fence. And
Yeah.
authentically, that isn't everyone's dream. So what are you finding with that, and how do you help people actually find out what their authentic self is?
So, first of all, I think a lot of us don't know what our authentic self is, right? It's difficult, and I believe everyone to a certain extent is inauthentic because we, like you said, we adapt to our societies, and we have to, right? In some ways, and then we learn so much, especially as kids. We learn so much from our parents, so we also adopt their beliefs and how they look at the world because we don't know anything. And then we grow up with all those beliefs and probably end up in the wrong jobs, wrong relationships, or wrong cities for that matter. So I do think we all go through this cycle of growing outside of our authenticity. So I feel like we're born authentic, like truly authentic, but then we pick up all these things from other people. And then I think there is a turning point where you realize, if you reflect enough and have some time and space to think about it, you realize that, what, this really what I want? Like, am I being true to myself and am I being true to others? Right. And I'm not saying like we intentionally just want to not to be true to others, but I think it's part of growing up. So I feel like it's a common struggle everyone has. But I hope more people would get present to the fact that this is not the life I want to live, and really make some changes in their lives. But I also can appreciate and understand that that is also difficult, especially like in terms of career. You get bogged down in a role, you have family responsibilities, or then you get used to a certain paycheck. It's hard to really, it takes a lot of courage to, when you get to that point, to be like, no, this is not the life I want, but this is where I want to go.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think that freedom is actually scary,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you don't have that anchor points that you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
So in this space where you can do anything you want
Yeah.
and be anything you want and live any way you want,
Mm-hmm.
you have to really determine what that is that you want,
Yeah.
and are you
Yeah.
willing to get there?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think, yes, freedom is scary, but I feel like it's scary because we are empowered, or we are the owners of our lives, and I think that is scary. Why? I think, in my opinion, because we don't trust ourselves to to use that freedom in the way we want, or in our capabilities to do what we want to do with that freedom. And
Right.
I think one is that, and the other thing, I think, again, goes back to like awareness around what you want, because I feel like we live our lives, we have this routine, we fall into it, and we just don't make the time to reflect. So I think those two reasons make us fear freedom.
Yeah, I totally agree. So what are some ways that people can like tap in to that power, tap into the ability to ask the right questions? Are there questions that you like to ask people to help them into that space?
Yeah, yeah. One of my favorite things I do with all of my clients is values mining. So getting really clear on what their top values are. And some people just use a list and pick out like a menu, these are my values. But we believe that that doesn't really work, because then people are biased, and you pick things that seem good societally, right? So one of the questions, or there are a few questions I ask to get to the values. One is, what is a peak experience where you completely lost track of time, you were in it, you were fully alive? So when I ask that, people pick something and they talk about it, and then you, I dig further and be like, what was important about that? How did you feel? And then I write down, like I pull off words, write them down, and then do that a few times to narrow down a list of values that resonate with them. Sometimes, if that question doesn't work, the other question is, what really pisses you off? Tell me about a time where you felt really violated, you were really annoyed. And then that sometimes actually gets more emotion in some people, and they're able to say, this was really not right. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think like getting to your values is really important, because like even for me personally, when I know what my values are, it's really easy to make decisions in life, with regards to people or jobs or whatever. I literally pull up my values and see if it ticks, my top five, and I'm like, okay, good to go, or no.
hmm I truly agree with that. Actually, it plays so well into, I just did a training, and I'm not trying to plug me by any means, but I
That's fine.
literally just did a training the other day
Mm.
on who you are, what is your purpose, and what does success look like to you.
Mm. Yeah.
Because I think that that's the first step. Once you know who you are
Hmm.
and what your purpose is, which is a lot of value mining,
Yeah.
it has the same feeling, right?
Mhm.
Um, and what success looks like, you can build your whole life's experience, your work, your job, your career, your family,
Yeah.
everything is built from that.
Hmm.
And what's that's solid for you, and I have you write down. I have a worksheet. It's pretty, and you hang it up,
Yeah.
put it
Yeah.
somewhere important. So that way, throughout the whole process, you're looking
Mhm.
and you're like, oh, okay, just like you said, I have to check. Does this check
Mhm.
off my values? And I
Yeah.
think it's so important because we don't remember that we have values and we have a core that we have to stay true to, or it
Mhm.
doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel
Just
like,
doesn't work.
these things need to be taught in school maybe, but they're not.
I agree. I agree. And they're not. You, and there's a reason for that. They don't want individuality in school.
Mm, yeah.
You are literally on a career path. Like when you start school, you are on a path to be work into a factory.
Mm. True, true. Yeah.
That's what you're being trained to do.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You're
mm.
not trained to think. You're not trained to. You're trained to solve problems and to listen to your boss.
Yeah, yeah. And compliance, right? Compliance and just,
Client.
yeah, sticking to the
Yep.
rules.
Stick to the rules. And now part of that is really good, right? We learn how to live in a society. We learn how to deal with other people. We learn relationship tactics, right? But
Yeah,
not in a way that actually makes sense. So we don't have a class on how to end conflict, how to have healthy debate, which I believe should be taught in like third grade.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
literally how to have a healthy debate. If we taught that in third grade, think about all the just just teach that in third grade. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And even like managing your own emotions, right? I feel like it's such a big thing. And sometimes we don't get it at home because if our parents don't know how to manage their emotions, we learn to manage them the way they learn to, right? So I feel like that is something, I don't know if it's third grade, but sometime in school, right? It needs to
yeah,
be taught.
I think the hardest part about that is that you're dealing with all the crazy hormones,
Mm,
like really, because you have to have you're flooded, you know,
yeah,
biologically. Part of that is biologics, right?
yeah.
And and so you're flooded with all these crazy hormones that you don't know how to deal with. No one
Mm,
knows how to deal with. That's why the whole rebellious teenage phase happens, is
yeah.
because you're literally like your body is short circuiting itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Like quite literally, that's what it's doing, right? And
Mm,
so I always laugh about parents and teenagers, right? My little sister, I basically raised my little sister for many years, and
mm,
she she was not an easy teen. Like she was rebellious and crazy and like quite violent. And come to find out later, there were biological reasons for this. They have her under control,
yeah.
um, but you're so short circuited and you have no way to regulate
Yeah.
some of the things that we can regulate now as adults. We can like go, okay, well, all right, I need to meditate a little bit, or I need to eat this food better, or I'm, doing XYZ, I'm having too much caffeine, I'm drinking too much, I'm doing,
Mm,
you can go through a list and you can manage it because that level isn't being like spit out at you
yeah.
at, you're not being flooded with it. You have a normal regulation,
Hmm.
whereas teenagers don't have it. So it's almost like a college level class or something you need to take as you're in your senior year. Like maybe, even that's not, because it's something that it would be so hard to manage in how food, you know, because it's something that would be a holistic approach to managing emotions, because it's not one thing. I think
Yeah.
personally,
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, right, it is physical. It's the nervous system, right? That is not in what do you say? Not neutral, right? It gets triggered and goes
right?
up and down. So I mean, exercise is a big part of it, just as much as meditation, but they're very
Mm-hmm.
different. And also, I think just being aware of what's going on, right, in your body and why you're angry, right? What is
Yeah.
triggering you? I think just having that narrative, even as a teenager, just knowing, okay, this is what is probably happening, I think is also really helpful. So, that, like you said, it is a holistic approach, and there are so many components to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, and I wonder. it's one of those things that now that you say that, it's such a like how would I go about teaching that to a 13-year-old?
That's true. That is true.
Like, because it's an interesting proposition. Like, how would you teach that to a 13-year-old that your body is being flooded with all kinds of chemicals from, and they're trigger. This is the biologics of anger, the biologics of emotion.
Yeah.
And how to regulate that. That's now my whole brain is like going,
How do we teach this? Yeah.
how do we teach that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to do some volunteer work with teenagers as a coach, right? So I think it's also just having a supportive figure that's not your parents, not related to you, not in your education system, but somebody outside who sees things in a different way and hopefully is able to connect with the child enough that they listen to them a little bit and yeah, so I think it's a bit of intervention
Yeah,
from a coaching standpoint, but definitely think that there are things that could be on the education system that still will help.
I think that it's really interesting. I wonder. Yeah, like I could go through like a whole as I'm sitting here thinking the whole course just is downloading into my brain. Like, okay, this is how we'd have to teach that. We'd have to go and talk about the biologics of, like, it would be a biology class, and the biology of emotion and of like, and really do it as a science, like in a scientific kind of way.
Yeah.
So that it takes the mystery out of, why am I sad? Why am I freaking, I'm a teenager and I can't stop thinking about sex. Like, I'm a teenage boy because my testosterone is so freaking high and I'm angry all the time.
Yeah.
Like the wind blows the wrong way and I'm angry. Why? Well, because your testosterone level is going crazy. So, okay, breathe through it. It's going to flood through and then you'll be done.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? It's now I want to go teach that class. Let's go teach that class. It'd be so much fun.
It will be, I think so, and it will be very impactful, right? At that age. Yeah.
So, Sabrina, we gotta come to an end. I'm like, I've just looked at the time. I'm like, oh no, it's not time yet. It's not time yet. Tell people how to get in touch with you.
So on LinkedIn and Facebook, I go by my full name, so Sabrina Sourjah. And then my coaching practice is called Salmon Run Coaching. So my website is salmonruncoaching.ca for Canada. And then my Instagram is also Salmon Run Coaching.
I love it. All right. And you do have that either above or below somewhere, depending where you're watching this. And Sabrina, I love you. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I love your energy. I'm so happy that you got to be on today. I'm just so in love with who you are. So thank you for the work that you do in the world.
Thank you, Jeff. I've really enjoyed this conversation and I really feel like we connected, and I feel like I would like to continue this conversation offline, especially about the, like how to teach teenagers about emotions and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me here. It was fabulous.
Thank you. All right, guys. So definitely check that out. You all know to check out True Awesome Life. For all the stuff with me, check the Creative Nomad show. The show notes will be up and everything there, and how to get a hold of her. And guys, I love you all so much. You have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Creative Nomad Show. If you have any questions about this or any other episode, go to creativenomadshow.com. There's also a link at the bottom. If you are a radical and would like to be a guest, you can apply to be on the show there. Thanks again, and know that you are loved. Awesome Life, we look for the world changers who want to live in creativity, authenticity, and profitability whenever, wherever. So check out trueawesomelife.com and let's get started.